Hello, IDS 105 students, and welcome to week 2 here in the IDS 105 learning community. This week, we're going to dive in a little bit further into defining social justice, and I'm going to talk to you about your assignments for Module 2, but really centering in on your very first project draft that you will be completing here in week 2. First and foremost, your experience here at Southern New Hampshire University is important to us. It is our policy and practice to create an inclusive and accessible learning environment. If there are aspects of instruction or course design that present barriers to accessibility, please notify the Online Accessibility Center, the OAC, as soon as possible at 866-305-9430. You can also email them at oac@snhu.edu or visit the Online Accessibility Center website. As a reminder, the OAC team is a department here at the university that helps you get content in a way that works best for you. If you have questions about this or want to know more, please reach out directly to the OAC team. A couple of webinar reminders is that this is an academic space, so always be mindful of your conduct. Also, these webinars are not mandatory, they're not graded, there's no extra credit points awarded, but you will learn from week to week as we'll cover the concepts and assignments in your classroom. But also hopefully you're having a little bit of fun. As a reminder, when the webinars are pre-recorded or on demand, they're available every Monday for the new module. And then if there is a live session, those sessions are always recorded, and the recording is available within 24 hours on the First Year Experience YouTube page. Couple of reminders about week 2 is please make sure, y'all, that you are reading your course announcements in your IDS 105 classroom. It is so important because your faculty put a lot of tips, tricks, reminders. They might even have some helpful videos or photos or things that are going to help you be successful in completing your assignments. So please make sure that you are reviewing those course announcements throughout the week. And also make sure that you're checking your university email because that is how the university stays in touch with you. As you work through your course modules from week to week, day to day, if you get stuck, if you have questions, please email, call. Some of your faculty might even text message. Check that My Instructor announcement in your classroom because it tells you how to get a hold of them. Let them know if you have questions. Don't hesitate. We want you to be successful in your classroom. If you're not sure if something posted right, or if you struggled on an assignment, or you have questions about something in the classroom, please get with your faculty because they are the ones that can see your assignments. They can see what you have submitted, what you haven't submitted. They're the ones that are grading your work so they can give you the best advice because we want you to be successful. As another reminder, your week 1 grades from last week will be graded through the end of week 2 by Sunday. So just a reminder, we have 7 days from when you submit assignments to get those assignments graded and turned in back to you. As you know, some things might auto grade like the warm-ups. However, your discussions, any journal assignments, project drafts, we grade those manually one by one. So they can take a little bit of time to get back to you. So if you don't see a grade after week 2 of Sunday, then you want to get with your instructor. Just a reminder on how to check those grades is you can go into your IDS 105 classroom, click on course menu and scroll down to grades. When you click on grades, it's going to pull up the entire term and all the assignments that you have due. And you will see where you'll see points will be filled in, a grade, and then there's this comments and assessments. You can click to view the assessment or the feedback from your faculty once they've graded it. If you have questions, you're stuck, please reach out to your instructor, but always be checking your grades. It's such a good best practice to be on top of your graded assignments. That way you can make sure that everything you thought you turned in really got turned in. You can also see like if there's any resources that your instructor might want you to connect with for your success. And you can also see how you're doing in the class and stay on top of your grades for your success. So y'all, week 1 is in the books. Congratulations. We're so excited to have you here at the university. And this week here in week 2, you have a project draft assignment. It's your very first project draft, which is a part of your final project that'll be due later in the term. So you have that assignment and you also have a warm-up assignment. Just so you know, both the warm-up assignment, which is like a little open book quiz, they are both due on Sunday. So that project draft and that warm-up assignment are due on Sunday of week 2. Can you work ahead on them? Of course you can. Couple of things to know about your project draft and your warm-up assignment is first and foremost, that warm-up assignment is like an open book. So you want to make sure you review the module content, review your required resources, any videos, readings from your textbook, any other blogs or journal articles that are linked this week, and then take that warm-up assignment. That will auto-grade. So you get multiple attempts. If you struggle on the first one or two, you can go back and take them until you get the most amount of points possible. With the project draft, you want to make sure you have Microsoft Word or something compatible, because you have a template for this assignment, which means there's a document that you will click on and open and actually fill out. It is a Microsoft Word document. Reminder, you get Office 365 for free as an SNHU student, so you can utilize that software to be able to have access to these templates. Last week in Module 1, you had a journal assignment, and you were able to submit a video note for that assignment. For any of your project drafts, you cannot submit a video assignment, okay, or a video submission. You have to actually use the template and use the document that is provided for you. The biggest thing I want you to know, and I will walk you through your project draft for week 2, but the biggest thing is, and I'll explain this as we go through the webinar, you are only choosing a scenario this week in week 2, okay? When you open up these scenario profiles, the documents that you'll get to choose a scenario from, you'll see as scenarios, but then you're also going to see some conflicts listed. Don't get confused. Only pick the scenario you're going to focus on to help you answer the questions for your project draft this week. You will focus in on a conflict later in the term. It's actually in Module 5. So focus on the scenario for every project draft until you get to Module 5. Then you're going to need to focus on the conflict and the scenario. Okay, so just know, week 2, I'm only picking a scenario, and that will help you answer your questions for the project draft assignment you have due here this week. So just to recap and talk about a few things that we have already been learning about, but we're going to dive a little bit deeper into here in Module 2, is the topic of social justice. So as a reminder, social justice is defined as the concept in which equity or justice is achieved in every aspect of society rather than only some aspects or for some people, and affords individuals and groups fair treatment. So as you work through your assignments this week, and as you review the concepts that you are covering and the content that you are covering, I want you to be thinking about social justice, what it means to you, what you know about it. Have you had any experiences with it? Or is this totally new for you? No matter where you're at, that's okay. That's part of why we're here in college. We're learning, right? We're learning about ourselves. We're learning about others. Social justice has 5 core principles. Number 1 is ensuring that access to resources. 2 is that equality, that equity. 3 is participation. 4 is diversity. 5 is human rights. In your module this week and in your reading and required resources, it's going to expand upon those 5 core principles of social justice. These are important for you to understand, especially as you answer your questions for your project drafts this week. The other thing I want you to consider and think about is fairness, equality, and perceptions. So stop and think for a minute. Have you ever had any experiences that have impacted your beliefs and behaviors? Could be the way you grew up, could be the way that you were treated, could be the way that you saw somebody else be treated. Think about your values for a minute. Have your values led you to view people from different cultures accurately or with some bias? And then another thing to think about is what symbols have become cultural norms for you, or that you've learned about additional symbols over time. So take a minute and think about, what are my values? Am I biased about other people, other cultures? Do I just not know enough? Is there any experiences that have impacted the way I view other people or myself, or situations that I found myself in? So last week we delved into kind of the understanding that you're multifaceted, right? We have a lot of identities that have shaped who we are today. So what are those stories that we live by and tell about ourselves to others? And how do we view others that are in our everyday lives, or even those that might be strangers? So just some things to think about and kind of bring your mind to be aware of as you work through Module 2's content. Really, it's just starting to get your wheels turning, because this week you are choosing a scenario to focus in on for your project drafts. So again, these project drafts tie into your final project that you will submit later in the term. This very first one, You're going to be picking the scenario that you're going to stick with all term long, okay? So you will notice that when you go to the directions for the assignment, it lists 3 scenarios. There's a school one, a personal one, and a workplace scenario. You'll notice you see these conflicts that are on there. The conflicts, y'all, we're not focusing in on those, okay? What you want to do is just know that there's a school scenario, a personal scenario, and a workplace scenario. And you actually want to click on underneath supporting materials, you'll see this scenario profiles. When you click on the scenario profiles, it opens up lots of details and information about each scenario. So it'll allow you to really decide which scenario speaks to you the most. And if you have any personal experience with that kind of scenario, and you want to list your scenario at the top of your project draft, and then using the scenario that you picked and using what you've learned in class, this module 2, you want to focus in and answer this part 1 social justice section that you need to complete for module 2. So this is just a quick screenshot of what that project draft looks like. I'm going to show you how to find this template and that you can type right in it. But what you are doing again for this week is you are going to pick a scenario, just a scenario. So make sure you look at the whole, all the pieces and parts underneath the scenario profiles. Pick your scenario, and you're going to use that as you answer these 4 questions. So using your scenario, you're going to explain the difference between justice, fairness, and equality in your scenario. You are also going to describe how bias can influence your perception of social justice in the scenario you picked. You're going to describe how different narratives in society can impact your perception of social justice. And then you're going to describe the core principles of social justice in the scenario. So again, use this presentation, use your required readings and your required resources to help you answer the questions for week 2 in your project draft. I'm going to share my screen with y'all here real quick and go into your classroom space. You can see where to click and where to find everything. So as a reminder, this template you're going to use for your project draft all term long, you're going to be opening up the same one and typing in it, is a Microsoft Word document. So if you do not have Microsoft Word or something compatible, you do get Office 365 for free. So you can go underneath the help, the arrow, go to online student services. And when you do that, it pulls up all the departments here at the university. Scroll down to Office 365 and other software. Click the blue, gets you to where you want to go. Follow the tutorial steps to get it downloaded to your system. Okay, if you get stuck, let the help desk know. Also, since this is a bigger writing assignment, I encourage you to consider working with maybe the academic support team. You can find them up here at the top or right here in the list of resources. And when you click on the academic support team, a lot of students, when they have larger writing assignments, like to use this written feedback tool. So if you click on that, it'll ask you some questions about the assignments, when it's due, kind of the scope of the assignment, and you can upload your draft and it'll be reviewed by a member of the academic support written feedback team. And they get that back to you usually within 24 hours. So you can plan ahead a little bit. So those are some resources I wanted to point out for you to utilize for your success here in week 2. Now to find your assignment, course menu, learning modules, and then you want to go to module 2. When you go to module 2, remember y'all to click through the module content. So click on the introduction, click the blue, gets you to where you want to go. There's a lot of text I know to get through. You're going to need it, especially as you dive into the concepts and questions this week and for your assignments. Okay, so make sure you're scrolling down and clicking over. As I mentioned, it's so important to review all of the content that is in here. You'll see there's a lot of stuff in here, but it's going to help you answer the questions to your assignments this week, both that warm up and your project draft. Remember to review the required resources. So you'll notice this week you're reading in chapter 3 of your textbook. Plus, you also have these really helpful videos that'll help you break down the difference between equity and equality. Okay, so just make sure you're checking those pieces in there. Don't forget them. And then you'll work into your assignments for the week. So like I said, you have a warm-up. This warm-up, or like an open book quiz, is graded, okay? You can take it multiple times. You guys will see like a little start quiz button to begin your first attempt. And if you retake it, you go back in the same way. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that I pointed that out to you. And then you have that project draft. So that project draft, you can find it right here, 2-2 project draft social justice. I like to just click on guidelines and rubric because that's going to open up an overview of the assignment and it's going to give you the direction. So remember, like I said, you're picking a scenario. Focus in on this scenario, worry about the conflict later, not till module 5. As you scroll through, you're going to see, I want to point out a couple things. One, you have the project template, okay? So when you click on this project template, it's going to open up a document that looks like this. You might have to enable editing because you can type directly in this assignment. So for example, you want to make sure that you identify which chosen scenario you picked. So you'll just type it right in here, okay? Or you can say, school scenario as an example. And then pay attention to what questions you're answering for week to week, because this template doesn't necessarily go in order. So for module 2, these are the questions that you are answering. You have these 4 questions under part 1. But if you look through the template, you'll see that you have questions that you'll be answering in future modules. You are only focusing in on what is due for week 2, and you're only answering them using your scenario, what you learned from the reading, and required resources in your own personal experiences. Okay, so focus in just on this spot. You will do the rest of this in future modules. So you'll just save it and you'll upload it for your instructor to grade, just like you did last week for your journal assignment, but just make sure it's underneath module 2 in the project draft. Okay, so like I mentioned, you're picking those scenarios. There's a school, a personal, a workplace. This document under supporting materials, click on scenario profiles. When that pulls up, y'all look at this. So much more information about what you are actually going to be picking for your scenario. So you'll notice for the school scenario, it gives you all of this information about like, this is what the scenario actually is, okay? You'll notice too, you have personal scenario, and then you have scenario 3, which is the workplace scenario. So pick which one resonates with you the most. Pick which one you will be wanting to stick with all term long, because as you work yourself through that project draft template, you will be utilizing the scenario you picked all term to answer the questions from module to module when you have a project draft due. Okay, so that is everything for week 2. A reminder of what resources to utilize for your success, but also a reminder of how to find that warm-up assignment, how to find your project draft, and just to remember to utilize the module content, this presentation, and the required resources for your success. If you get stuck, reach out and let us know. Before I leave you, I wanted to share this quote by Paul Hawken. Everywhere in the world are ordinary people willing to confront despair, power, and incalculable odds in order to restore some resemblance of grace, justice, and beauty to this world. So just remember, you are important. You are a piece of this world, and we're so excited to have you here at SNHU. So go be amazing in week 2. If you get stuck, reach out to your resources, and remember, you got this. I'll see you in week 3.